minute to look at the chart for, this is the small and medium. There's also a separate chart for the large, extra large, and one for the 2 extra large, so it depends on what size you're making. But as you can see here, these circles are yarn overs, and so every time you're decreasing a stitch, like this one right here, which is a slip slip knit, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute, you're going to have a yarn over near it, so you will keep the same number of stitches, because a yarn over is going to take the place of that stitch and leave a nice little hole so that you get that eyelet look. And so you're not losing or gaining any stitches, even though you see there are these different stitches together. Okay, and don't be intimidated by this either. We're going to take care of all. I'll show you how to do all these together. That's only the very top of a diamond shape here. You can see how they're like a diamond. And the top of each one, and which ends up being the sides as well because they intersect, are all this little stitch. But just letting you know, when you look at the chart, you do not lose any stitches. So if you're new to this, I said, don't worry, I'm going to walk you through this part. The basic body and the sleeves, I said I didn't show those because they're just stockinette. But the chart can be a little bit intimidating for some people. They don't want to jump into lace knitting because of the complexity of this, but don't worry, we're going to walk through it together, and I'm going to show you it is not scary at all. And actually, I vastly prefer to work from a chart like this than from a written pattern, because then you're like, oh, you lose your place all the time. Now we just know if we finish this part, you're like, okay, I got right here. I'm on the right side. I'm going to knit these. Boom. So that's the way the chart looks, and we're going to be referring to it as we work through a few rows. We'll work several rows together, and I will show you how to tackle the chart and what these different stitches mean, and then you'll be able to knit this sweater in no time like a pro. Okay, for our sample here, I'm going to just show a small portion of the lace just to give you the general techniques. And I've started here the way you would with the sweater. So I use the same size needles for both. Obviously use a smaller size for ribbing, but it's a knit 2, purl 2. So I'm assuming you know the basics of knitting because this is an intermediate level pattern. So it's got the lace. So if you've done basics like this, like stockinette, like this right here, I'll walk you through the lace. But knit 2, purl 2 is the way the body and the sleeves start. And then a stockinette, which is of course knit 1 row and purl 1 row. And if you're newer to that, remember I was always like, oh, how do I know if I'm knitting or purling that row? If you're looking at these V's, you are knitting. And if you are looking at these bumps, if it was the opposite way and the end of your needle was here, you would be purling. So this is the wrong side of the fabric and this is the right. Okay, just a basic beginner thing there. So I'm using a circular needle just because it's easier to film with. Sometimes the long parts get in the way when I'm filming. So that's why, if you're wondering why I'm using a circular, that's a lot of times I do that anyway, so I don't poke people beside me if I'm sitting next to a hubby or anything. But anyway, so that's why the circular. So this is just a very small little swatch here for our, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start each one with just a knit 2, because that way, or a purl 2, depending on which it is. And I do the English method. I'm really trying to teach myself continental. So bear with me if you're not used to this way. You would just do your normal stitch. This is the way I was a knitter first before I crocheted, and the throwing it, and I'm so slow. I like crochet better because of that, but I love the look of knits. So okay, the first thing we come to in our first one is a circle, which is a yarn over. When you see the little circle and the yarn over, you're going to just wrap the yarn like normal, and just, that's it. That is a yarn over. Okay, so you just, however you wrap your yarn, whether you're continental or English, you just wrap it like that. And our next one now is a slip slip knit. When I first started doing this, I went ahead and slipped both purl-wise, but I found that a lot neater if I slipped the first one knit-wise. So I'm gonna act like I'm knitting, and then like I'm purling. So I have 2 here, and then I'm gonna knit them. So when you knit, this needle's behind. So you got your yarn over, it's kind of hanging out weird here. And you've just slip, slip, knit. So you slip one knit-wise, slip one purl-wise. And now we're gonna continue the stitch and pull it through both. Okay. When you slip the first one knitwise, it actually gives it a nice, neater look here. So that was a big thing. It was a game changer for me as far as how my projects looked. So that's it. And then I'm going to knit 2. If it's a colored full square, just the gray, it's knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side. So the next one is 2. Okay, and now what I have is a knit 2 together. So, and that's on the right side, which we are. So I'm going to go through 2. Okay, just like you're doing 1. Like when you do 1 like this, but you're going to go through 2 and do it like a regular stitch, and that decreases. And then yarn over, and then that repeats. So the next several, I have another, mine's getting tight, but as I'm looking at the screen, here we go. I'll look at my knit 2 together, yarn over, so that was twice, and now again, knit 2 together, yarn over, and one more time. It's a series of 4 to make 4 holes in the middle of these diamond shapes, and yarn over. And now I have to just knit 4 here, and then it would start over. Okay, the pattern repeats, so it has the yarn over, slip, slip, knit, and keeps on going. But for me, since I'm just doing a swatch, I'm gonna knit my last 2. Okay, and so for that, since it was the right side, we read the pattern in the chart from right to left. Okay, if you're right-handed, which I am, so I went right to left. And now that we're turning, we're going to read the chart in the opposite direction. The good thing is on the rows where you're coming back across, all you have to do is purl, because the row is completely gray, and that on the wrong side is just a purl stitch. So go ahead and purl all the way across, and then we'll do a couple more rows together, and I'll definitely show you how to do our special stitch at the top of the diamond. Okay, I went through and purled. You can see my yarn overs here, making those holes, which is on purpose. So if you're not used to lace knitting, don't be like, ah, I got a giant hole. It's on purpose. So the next one, because I said I start out with 2. Oh, mine's getting kind of crazy there. I start with 2 knit, and that's not in the chart. So you'll have to look at the written pattern for that. So there's 2 there. So now I am at row 3, and the first stitch was just a knit because it's gray. And now it's a yarn over and a slip, slip, knit. Remember, you're going to go, get closer here. You're going to slip 1 knitwise, slip 1 purlwise. Oops, what am I doing? My brain is gone. And you will just go like you're in a knit stitch and knit together. Okay, and there's that. And now there are 2 knit stitches. Okay, and now we're doing the knit 2 together and yarn over, but only 3 times. So here we go. Knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over again, and one more time, knit 2 together, and yarn over. Well, now I have 3 knit stitches. Okay, and then I have a knit 2 together. There we go. And yarn over, and then I knit my last 2 because of it being the edge. And we're going to repeat down the line. And it feels like mine get a little tight as I do it, but it looks fine. And yes, this is a 10 instead of a 9. The pattern calls for a 9, but just to get the, couldn't find my 9 circulars. Anybody else lose your stuff regularly? I even have my own craft space and I lose it. So right now you can't tell as much, but you can see the first 4 holes there. The next holes are up there, and we're going to start seeing the decrease of the top. So what you need to do now is, if I'm going to work rows 4 through 14 so that I can show you how to do that one more stitch at the top. Other than that, it's just repeats of these same things. It's yarn overs, knit, slip, slip, knits, knit 2 together. It's really easy. So we'll come back and we'll hit our very last special stitch, and then you should have all the skills you need to do the lace. Now, if you ever, when you're lace knitting, just an FYI, I guess, kind of if you're doing a pattern, I know a lot of them I looked at when I was knitting and before I designed in like Vogue knitting and stuff, they said like if you're working a pattern like this, a chart, and you get too close to the end and it's like falling off, you're supposed to do the last like 2 or 3 stitches in stockinette. And that would be true in any pattern. So like if you were working this and do maybe adjusting it to a different size or something, and you saw that the chart got too close to the end, or if you were decreasing from the armhole and it got too close to the end, you would just want to work the last couple stitches in stockinette the way I'm doing here. Okay, just this helpful tip for lace knitting. So I'm going to go work on this little swatch, rows 4 through 14, and come back with you and finish that last one. Okay, I'm at the point and where I'm going to come to the very center of this diamond, and I'm going to need to do our slip 2, knit, and pass the slip stitches over. That's what that abbreviation means. You can see my pattern taking shape here. So I've worked out to that point already right here. You can see all my yarn overs that are forming our little diamond shapes. And right here, I want them to come together. Now, the reason that we would use this stitch is because we're going to decrease 2, and we don't really want it to lean to the left or to the right. So this decrease will keep it pretty much centered, which is what we want. The slip stitches kind of fade to the background and the center stitch becomes really prominent. And that's what we want to happen here. So to work that stitch, which you'll see the point of every one of these little diamonds, you're going to work out here to where it needs to be. And it always has a yarn over around it. So go ahead and yarn over. Oh, get my yarn in place here. Okay, so I've yarned over here. And you're going to act like you're knitting 2 together. So you'll put it in both. Get mine closer here. And you're going to slip them at the same time. Okay, slip those over. Now knit 1. And you're going to pass these 2 back over. So go ahead and get underneath them, just like you're binding off, and pull them carefully. You want to catch that the stitch you just knit in there, and throw them off. See how it brings that center stitch to the foreground there, and then yarn over. Now let me see what's on the next to my thing here. Okay, so now I need to knit 3, so I can show you what it looks like. I'll finish out this little part here, and I was actually doing exactly what the chart said. So here I am on my knit 2 together and yarn over, and now I'll just knit the rest. And then we'll take a look at that center stitch. So you can see right here, it's kind of, see, it's not pulled for the next row. I would go through a purl, of course, in the next row, but you can see it really does bring the center stitch right here, even though we decreased 2. We have a hole on each side for our yarn overs, and that just brings us there. And so these are all the skills that you're going to need to work this lace. You just need a simple yarn over, slip, slip, knit, and so they go this way. And like I said, before I started doing the slip the first one knit-wise, it never looked this nice and neat, because that brings the stitches on top just face. Mine were always twisted, so that helps there. And then your knit 2 together is just nice, and there's no decreasing or any of this stuff on the back, because honestly, when I see, you know, purl 2 together through the back loop, I cringe inside. But I liked this pattern because I could do all of my fancy stuff just on the right side. And then of course you have your, so knit 2 together and yarn overs to make this. These all go in the same direction there. And then that top one with the slip 2, knit 1, pass the slip stitches over. So when you see that little weird thing showing it's come to a peak, that's how you work it, and you just continue working the chart. The written instructions are very important for this pattern, so you're going to want to go to love.life.yarn.com and grab the written instructions. You can get it free online, or if you like the printables, you can buy an inexpensive ad-free PDF of that so that you have it right there and have it all in front of you, and then you can work this nice lace back pattern. So find more than 100 free patterns at lovelifeyarn.com, including lots of other knitting patterns, and we'll be sure to see you next time. Thanks for watching.